personally, I was 27 when I got into the business, and as far as I personally felt, and I'm not advocating the way I perceive the world, I'm just saying that's the way I saw it at the time, was like, I want to give the real world a try before I go into this business. I'm not trying to diss this business, but I really thought, and don't misunderstand me when I say this, but I thought better of myself. And I was, so when I got in it, my purpose was, believe it or not, however I have seemed at times, or have been at times, my overall purpose at once upon a time was to actually make this business better in whatever little tiny way that I can in the moment. I know I haven't represented that at all moments, or seemed to at least, but I have at least, gone into that originally with that intention.
How long have you been in adult entertainment?
I started in March of '96.
What made you do it?
I was telemarketing. Actually, I was doing surveys, but it was a telemarketing company. I was the top guy in my division, and I knew there was something more to life than this. Even being the top of that shit pile didn't mean anything. And at that point, I was kind of like, fuck it.
How has your working in the adult industry changed your relationship with your family, if any? If in any way?
Well, I've always been an only child, so I've kind of always considered myself in my normalcy to be self-reliant in my own little world. I learned that more than the average. So it has its perks and it has its defects, I guess. Depends on how you look at it. So I really consider that I was already sort of never really outside the world, just always inside mine. And so wherever I was just pursuing, I don't know what I'm saying, but it hasn't estranged. I have not overall been forthright, or never sought to be. I don't know if I need to get into the reasons or not, but one can imagine. It's like, I've jokingly said that porn is fun for the whole family, just not all at once. Was in Santa Monica in a hotel. It was for Ray Anderson, who shot some of the Face Fucked for Hustler. And I was given a chance. I was introduced as a guy that was brand new, was paid $100. Shot in a hotel. The girl was living with the late, just as a guest of the late Ron Sullivan, who was a great guy in the business. I never met him at the time. I would meet him soon after, but I picked her up at his house where she was staying up in the valley. And so that gave us time to kind of talk to each other and things we like or into and whatnot, and our reasons for being here. And it was, for both of us, it was our first scene. She had done a scene with a girl, she said, but it was her first boy-girl. It was my first scene. So that helped kind of ease it up and make things more ideal, I think, for me. And, I could have done it either way, I'm sure. But we were hanging out in the lobby, and there was some other chick there. And I think the director was looking to hook up with her, but she took off. And I remember I said to her at some point that, and she gave me this stupid look, like, huh? Like, what are you, stupid? But I said something like that. It's a lot easier to expose yourself physically, or for me to expose my dick, than to necessarily expose my heart or my feelings or something. So I think she had no idea probably why I was saying that at the moment, but I was just talking about how it was brand new and that there's nothing wrong with what we do. Some people perceive it, and that's just their personal problem, and they can choose not to watch it. But at the same time, we should acknowledge how influential porn is on society, and how society has sort of become pornified. But anyway, going back to the question, I was playing a guy that was calling for the first time, an escort. So I was supposed to pretend that I was nervous, which was easy in my case, because it's like your first time. It is your first time having sex because it's the first time that a guy with a camera is there, so it becomes your first time all over again.
What do you think was better, the first time you actually had sex or the first porn scene that you ever shot?
Well, they each have something unique for themselves. I think in the personal life that would have to be trumping the other, because that's personal, and for whatever it was, good or bad, it was my own unique experience, and and that's what I think would make porn better. In the real life, there were events that led to that first time, whereas in the industry, it's sort of taken for granted, more or less. If you're paired with someone, you know what's about to happen. So the whole process of getting there is what's special too, I think.
So, what's been your favorite role to play since you've been? Yeah.
Well, I think one answer is simply the guy that's having an ideal day at the office. That's being in the moment. Really being that person rather than just pretending to be that person or playing that person in a blockbuster presentation. But as far as acting, ironically enough, and I don't like to give this much attention, but I think I'm most happy with my performance in Butterface Part 3. It was a non-sex role. It's you just have to see it. I don't recommend you seeing it, but see it just to see me in it. And I have to thank the people, as demented as they are, for providing at least an opportunity to do something. Not necessarily good in their case, but you can still make good of something that is fucked up. That's kind of my point.
How did you come up with Jeremy Steele?
Well, Jeremy's my real name, and I thought Steele was unique. It was more unique at the time that I picked it than it is now, but it wasn't unique then either. I think it, for me personally, meant like stealing one's emotions, and because the actual achievement of social and physical intercourse with someone is, even if you're Mr. Joe Cool, it's still an achievement, and it's like it often means more, or sometimes should be, or is sought to be more than how we present it, which is disposable, more or less. So it's, for me, I thought it's a one syllable, simple, and people can pronounce it, which is important, I thought.
Easy to spell.
And it had a lot of ease in it. I don't know, it seemed alright. I didn't put much thought into it. I just dug it and did it. I wish I had kept actually my telemarketing name, which I had the name Jeremy Sands. No connection to Lana, it just happened to be, I was told by a past life person or something that I was French novelist George Sand, so I did a lot of reading up on her, and I think that influenced me to take that stage name I was still a stage person. I don't want to give my real name, this is the personal choice, which they gave us the liberty to choose at the telemarketing job, so I chose a stage name.
That's kind of prophetic when you think about it, because now people have gone from, using obscure stage names back to their real names, because considering that we're in the information age when it comes to technology, the internet, even if you have a stage name, we're going to know your real name anyway.
They can find out, but also at the same time, the industry, as it's become more mainstream, it's like the horizon. You never reach the horizon, but it seems to keep getting closer, and we seem to be becoming more mainstream.
True.
In many ways, good and bad. And it's a way of incorporating so-called reality TV, but being real. by introducing ourselves and having comfort with that. And there's people that actually go by their real name when they enter the business now, which is interesting, and I applaud that.
Speaking of porn in the mainstream, you attempted to take porn more so into the mainstream via that documentary that you were telling me about that you were trying to put together. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
What movie you started?
Well, it started. I put the finally to starting, in my opinion, because a friend of mine who had made this movie, which never got released, but it was a fun experiment. Some people love it, some don't. But he was the one that kept telling him that he should follow me around because I have this ability to magnetically attract funny stuff, weird stuff, and it's stuff you can't even write.
Okay.
So, and there's a certain art. You're aware that a camera's there, but at the same time, just like performing, you get in the moment, and you don't let one hopefully turn you into something synthetic or projecting what you want them to see, but trying to be honest and being truthful and open, whether it's to my detriment or not. And without getting into too many details, basically the documentary became a nightmare. The thing itself, I think, is a potential futuristic masterpiece. It could be like a multi-volume set. The word success doesn't even have as much meaning. It should have meaning, but it doesn't. It's not the end all because it all ends anyway. So it's more about being in your truth and being in your moment, and then hopefully someone can make a movie about you instead of you worrying about being the movie star. So that's the way I look at it.
So how many hours of footage did you manage to accumulate
It's
during
got
this?
to be at least 100 raw hours. A lot of that's cutting room floor, whatever. Most of it's cutting room floor. Doesn't mean it's bad. The problem is there's too much good stuff, which is, I guess, a good problem to have. Another problem, the guy that's been shooting it's been unable to get it done. Without getting into too many details, as I speak now, I'm just seeing what I can do without bothering anybody, just letting them know that there is something here to observe. Maybe I can get a rough cut out, or at least some of the highlights. I think it's worth a hell of a lot. There's just so much good stuff. It's not about me. I happen to be the main character, but that's just it's just a point to start from and go from.
And what years was this shot between?
This was mainly shot in the year 2005 and a little bit after and such.
Okay.
2006 as well. I was at Eddie Van Halen's in his backyard when they were having the release party for the movie that he co-produced with Michael Ninn that I was in. So it was kind of a fun examination from low down to high up and in between, and it was shot like you were right there in the trenches. It's hilarious and it's sentimental and it's mental and it's physical. There's pimp fights, cat fights, there are breakdowns of various types. Shit's real, it's hilarious, it's shocking, it's explicit but not gratuitously so. It's basically akin to a war documentary. If you were going to show the hells and horrors of war, you should be showing the body parts. Ask me a question.
Now, how have you seen the industry change from when you began till now? How do you think the internet's affected it? Because you're pretty active on a lot of the
internet,
adult
basically.
blogs.
Well, I think self-evidently the internet was a mirror of people's inner psychology and their animalistic, reptilian, whatever, lust just leaps out like a prisoner out of a cage, completely rabid and mad. and cannot stop self-indulging. It kind of reminds me of what I've observed studying historically gays coming out of the closet. What they did to themselves was like this overindulgence to, I guess, in part, make up for repression and attacks and stuff. But I think they pushed it too far, too much recreation and too much shit like that. And in a way, the adult business has also pushed itself too far. And you've had people that have come in that are masochistic, mentally deranged, and if they weren't doing what they did on camera, ironically, with the evidence, but a release to go along with it, a lot of those people would be locked up. So it's very strange how, in the name of entertainment, almost anything can be done, almost anything. It should not have any damaging effect on your life. If there's a video out of you having sex hypothetically, and you're not in the business, but you got into it, or it got you in the business, or whatever, or your boyfriend, girlfriend got you caught up, and next thing you know, it shouldn't fucking matter. It shouldn't fucking matter to your job, or your life, or your family, or your home, or what you believe in, or what you do, or where you go to. It shouldn't have a fucking effect. People should respect other people no matter what they do, as long as they're respectful to you, and that's it. It's that simple.
What have been your current views on the whole Cal-OSHA condom mandates, the Free Speech Coalition stepping in, the AHF stepping in?
I think everyone is basically trying to get a piece of the porno action. That's the bottom line. And there are very few true non-profit organizations. They do exist, and a lot of people mean well, and that includes in organizations that I may have issues with. But as a whole, I perceive that the AHF is a whore for the pharmaceutical companies that give them millions of dollars. By pushing condom mandatory legislation, they are basically using us as free poster children to sell their version of so-called safe sex, which it is not, by the way. And through OSHA, who I perceive very lax and indifferent, or corrupt at worst, in regards to their application of language. For example, they say that the thing that is called a condom is quote-unquote prevents quote-unquote. In other words, they are claiming things that the manufacturer would not dare claim, because sperm is way bigger than microscopic infections, viruses, and whatnot, and the rate of pregnancy is still high enough that it is often the reason that women show up at family planning saying they got pregnant. They wore a condom, but they still got pregnant. So it does not equate with safety. It never will. So it becomes a matter, as it always should be, of personal choice based on being hopefully or necessarily an informed person who makes a choice based on a collection of facts and decides whether such risk is worth whatever potential reward. It's like anything. There's no way to make it safe, and plus, for many people, condoms is 100% toxic. Or for everyone, it's 100% toxic, but for some people, it's 100% problematic or can cause disease themselves, allergic reactions, and things like that. So there, regardless of what anyone thinks of what I'm saying, it seems to be clearly self-evident that there's been rushes to try to hustle things on people, and there's too much bias with the AHF. Like I said, they get millions, and OSHA is known as an ineffective bureaucratic agency anyway, and since we supposedly have the loophole of being as we are, or as we should be, independent contractors, that seems to will allow us, regardless of what decisions are made on this case. So it's sort of moot, but it's still important to fight for what one believes is right.
Do you think guys who play guitar can play women better than the average Joe?
Well, if it was true, I'd be best to pretend that it is, and that I don't want you to know that.
So what do you have to say to guys who are newbies coming into the industry? Would you recommend it?
For guys that are trying to get into the business?
Yeah, is it everything that they would dream it would be?
Well, anything can be in anything. But realistically, no. And especially of the time, no. It's way oversaturated. It's become as mainstream as almost can possibly be. All the free content and all the pirated content has turned this business upside down and almost destroyed it. And there are people still doing well, but comparatively speaking, a lot of people got washed up on the sand, out of business. Way too many performers, way too many people shooting it, way too much free content. You can't compete with free. So if you want to jump into that arena in the sense of it being a hobby, go for it. You've got nothing to lose. If you go in there with a big ego, no matter how gifted you are in whatever ways, you are putting yourself out there to be very disappointed.
Where have you found your success, though, in the industry? I mean, not even measuring your success via monetary means, but where have you found what you feel personally makes you successful and fulfilled when it comes to working in porn?
Well, success is an interesting word, and I was acquainted with the word from a young age when my dad was involved in these success, both pre-Tony Robbins kind of seminars, motivational kind of stuff, and one of the definitions of success is just simply acknowledging every day the little things, and Tony Robbins says this too, that the little goals you've achieved, and in general, without having to have things written down and goals made and whatnot, you can just simply acknowledge everything is a learning experience, and as long as one, as much as possible, can be honest, then assuming that you're a good person, and those are the only ones who are going to be honest. The rest are going to be dishonest to try to represent themselves instead of presenting themselves. If one in truth has a good heart and good intentions, then it should be okay to express oneself however one wants to. And in that way, I may not be the most financially successful, but whether I've been right or wrong or misperceived over time, whatever the factors are, it's still an experience to learn from, and if someone so chooses, to grow from. And without that, you don't ask for bad things to happen, but when things that are fucked up happen, you use them as a way of being your anchor in a way. And you have to become more of a solid person. Just learn and do the best that you can. And times are always changing. Change is the only thing that is constant. And we have to constantly remember that we're only within a world as we live it and have been living it. We have a limited perception of things, and there are much bigger things. And one always has to bow and be humble to that, and always be open to learning that which you've judged, you certainly may have misjudged, especially as people themselves are all in the process of going somewhere and hopefully ascending spiritually and consciously.
So what can you say about yourself, just to kind of bring us home?
I'm home where I live, hang all day. Did I go to the park? That's about a day's advance for me. I'll play with myself, guitar, and go hacky sack if I'm not working.